So with it looking like Ralf Rangnick will step down at the end of the season, there have been 4 managers who have been most talked about as replacing him as Manchester United manager. Now I'm going to be going through each manager individually before at the end I give my overall verdict, ranking them 1 to 4 on who I think should replace Rangnick as Manchester United manager. But first we actually need to look at what Manchester United should be looking for in their next manager. So we know that Rangnick is still going to be working at the club for the next 2 years, overseeing operations, so we need a manager who has experience or is at least willing to work with a director of football. A manager like Jose Mourinho or Antonio Conte is not going to work for Manchester United, as they are managers who want total control over things like transfers and strategy going forward, and this is obviously going to clash with the current ethos at Manchester United, particularly with Rangnick there. Also, Manchester United should be competing for the Premier League and Champions League next season and the season after, because if you look at the age of the current squad and the players that are hitting their peak, if United look to go through another complete rebuild, a lot of these players are going to age and hit a decline before the squad even gets to compete for the Premier League or Champions League. That means there has to be a degree of imminent success. There can't be any of this 3 to 5 year rebuilding that we've been hearing over the last few seasons. Manchester United need to get out of this Arsenal-Tottenham mindset and get back to competing with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Now there are a few other requirements, but before I get into that, we all need a great quality phone case which is going to protect our phones from damage, but we also want something unique and something that stands out to us personally. Well, Atlantis Football is collaborating with El Clasico cases to bring you some unique and iconic football cases for under £20. They've got the Fergie time case, the Ronaldo Sue celebration, the Pogba dab celebration, the Ronaldo free kick stance, and the Cantona kick, all for Manchester United fans. But they've also got a lot more designs as well. They've got the Zidane headbutt, the Jamie Vardy celebration, they've got Thierry Henry, Ronaldinho, Erling Haaland, David Beckham's free kick, Neymar's rainbow flick, and Messi's celebration with his shirt against Real Madrid, so they have plenty of variety for all sorts of football fans. A link to the website will be in the description below, and if you use code AF at checkout, you'll also get 25% off, and they are so confident in the quality that they are willing to offer a money back guarantee. And anything you do buy will be directly supporting the channel, so would be very much appreciated. So the other thing that Manchester United need from a manager is not just a manager who can develop young players, but also a manager who can get the best out of existing experienced players. See, one thing that a lot of people overlook is a player's ability to develop even after their early years. So a lot of people see a player who's maybe 19 and 20 and everyone knows that they can improve significantly from when they are that age to when they say are 25 or 26. But what a lot of people seem to neglect is that players can improve at whatever age. A great example of this is definitely Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. So Mo Salah joined Liverpool in the summer of 2017 when he was 25 years old. He was still a very good player, but he was nowhere near that world-class bracket. But Jurgen Klopp, with the system he used and how he deployed Mo Salah and how he got the best out of him, turned him into a world-class player. And the same can be said for Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino as well in that front line, who drastically improved under the management of Jurgen Klopp. So we've gone over the requirements that I think Manchester United should be looking for in their next manager. So before I rank these managers at the end on who I would want to become Manchester United manager, let's just go over each one individually. So the first and probably the favourite and the one who's been talked about the most is Mauricio Pochettino. So the media narrative seems to be that Pochettino is struggling in Paris, but I actually think he's doing quite well. He's well clear at the top of the league and table, and even if we look at the expected points table, we can see that PSG would still be top. They wouldn't be as far ahead, but they would still be 6 points around that ahead of Lille, who have been drastically underperforming their expected points. But anyway, PSG are still by far the best team in Ligue 1. Which would be expected from Pochettino. That's not really a massive achievement, but most of these achievements, or nearly all of the achievements, are going to come in the Champions League. But the problems that he's been having have been in the Champions League, and any further problems seem to be in Europe alone, and this is because of the tactical imbalance in the PSG squad. Having Messi, Neymar and Mbappe is more of a curse than a blessing in some ways. It's really hampering his ability to adjust the side tactically. If you look at that Manchester City side, he was playing with a 4-3-3. And with the lack of defensive output from Neymar, Messi and Mbappe, PSG were vulnerable down the flanks. And we did see Pochettino make a slight change. He did pull Idrissa Gueye over to that side. But I do think you can see why it's understandable that Pochettino is unhappy with the player power at PSG. It's an extremely hard situation that not many managers would have ever had in their career, because this is not just 3 world-class players that he has to play up front. This is the great greatest player of all time, along with two of the biggest names in football. But it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts, particularly with the Champions League knockout stages, what system he uses, and I think we'll learn a lot about Pochettino after the knockout stages come around. But I do think a lot of the criticisms aimed at Pochettino in regards to the Manchester United job are quite unfair. A lot of people bring up that he hasn't won a trophy. However, I think this is a complete fallacy that people fall into because they look at trophies rather than the achievements of managers at individual clubs. A good example is, say, Mikel Arteta. He won the FA Cup with Arsenal. Does that mean his tenure at Arsenal is more successful than Pochettino's at Tottenham? I mean, Pochettino took Tottenham to two Premier League title challenges from being a fifth place side who weren't even in the top four. And he also took Tottenham, who had never even been to the Champions League semi-finals and had only been to the Champions League quarter-finals once in like the last however many years. He took them to a Champions League final, and a lot of people seem to undermine his achievement at Tottenham. Remember, he didn't have a lot of money. I think it was the 2017, I think it was the summer, where he only brought in one player, or he didn't bring in anyone. One year he only brought in Moussa Sissoko, and it was a constant theme with Pochettino's Tottenham that they were underspending. But he still managed to get the best out of players. If you look at players like Dele Alli, Sissoko, Christian Eriksen, Danny Rose, Jan Vertonghen, there's a load of examples of players who significantly developed under Pochettino, not just becoming decent players, becoming top-level players. And you've seen how the careers of players like Dele Alli, Sissoko, Danny Rose have completely fallen off after Pochettino. And I think people need to take this into account. Pochettino was a fantastic developer of players. And so if he was to come into Manchester United, I think we could see players like McTominay, Fred, Lindelof, Bailly, Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, Donny van der Beek even, go up another level and actually become top-level players, which is something that United desperately need, as United haven't had a manager who's a real developer of players for quite a long time. Solskjaer definitely wasn't that, Mourinho wasn't that, Van Gaal certainly wasn't that, and neither was Moyes either. So since Sir Alex Ferguson left, United haven't had a manager who has a top level ability at developing players, not just young players, but players in their 20s and turning them into top level talents. And so if you look at Pochettino's achievements at Tottenham, I think you have to say that just because he didn't win a trophy doesn't mean he wasn't successful. Winning a trophy is kind of overrated. It does depend on the trophy you win. What is more valuable, or what is more impressive, should I say, getting Tottenham to the Champions League final, getting them to second and third, and consistently in the top four, or winning an FA Cup or even like a Europa League. Obviously, it would be with Pochettino's achievement with Tottenham, so you've got to factor that in. It's a pretty lazy argument to just look at the titles that a manager's won. It's all to do with context. It's where they were, what squad they have, the challengers at the time. So I don't think you can really use that as an argument against Pochettino. And if he does go on to win the Champions League with PSG, that argument will certainly be dead in the water. So the next option, and probably the one who's been second most talked about, certainly this year or since Solskjaer was under fire, is Erik ten Hag, who was the B team manager at Bayern Munich whilst Pep Guardiola was there. And his style is a lot similar to Pep Guardiola, more so than it is to Rangnick. So it would be a slight change. He's more of a possession-oriented manager. He does like to use either a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, playing out from the back. Really a versatile system as well. If you watch his Ajax side, he does have a lot of fluidity in their positioning. He has been using Mazraoui at right back as a inverted right back, moving into a quite advanced inverted position with the right winger in front of him holding the width. And this is one of the tactical adjustments he's really made over the last few years. But the thing I like about Ten Hag is his ability to rebuild a squad. So he had that first squad with De Jong, De Ligt, Hakim Ziyech. But after Ajax sold a lot of those players, he's been able to rebuild with completely new players, developing them in the same sort of way. He's had major success at Ajax, being pretty much the only manager since probably Louis van Gaal to really turn Ajax into potential Champions League contenders. Ajax were always contending and winning the Eredivisie, so he's in a similar sort of position to the one that Pochettino is at PSG. But it's been his success in Europe that has really caught the eye. He's managed to go out tactically against some of the best managers in the world. So that is definitely his standout trait, as well as his ability to develop young players, which is always a great asset for a potential Manchester United manager to have. The one caveat I would have with Ten Hag is that because of the structure around him at Ajax, he is supported heavily. I think Ajax is probably the best run club in the world. If you just look at their budget, look at the success they're able to have, the young players they're able to bring through, and they do have a lot of backroom staff. If you look at Edwin van der Sar and people like Mark Overmars, Dennis Bergkamp, who have been around the club, they seem to have an ideology that's all in sync, and it does make it a lot easier for a manager to come in. At Manchester United, they don't really have this. They do have Rangnick now, but the structure of the club is completely different, and he's not going to get that sort of support. Ideally, I would like to see him at another club other than Ajax after his first success. Maybe at a club like Borussia Dortmund, someone like that, just to see how he does in a different environment. But I definitely think he's worth the risk. I'll come on to whether I would prefer him to Pochettino at the end after I discuss the next two options. So these two are relatively new options in the Manchester United managerial debate. The first is Luis Enrique, who obviously had tremendous club because he did have Messi, Neymar and Suarez, and even though he has to be given credit for their success, it's hard to work out how to translate that to a different club. But what I would say is I'm incredibly impressed with his Spain side. If you watch particularly their 6-0 win over Germany, well, they used a 4-3-3 system and pressed Germany man-to-man in a kind of diamond shape, which was really effective, and they were close to getting to the Euro final as well. So I definitely think that Luis Enrique is a good option for Manchester United. The only thing is he has got the World Cup coming up in 2022, and I don't see him abandoning Spain during the summer and leaving for Manchester United, so I would rule him out. But when I do give my verdict, I will assess him as though he is a potential option. So Julen Lopetegui is the fourth option, and I actually think he's a very underrated manager, probably the most underrated manager in the world at the moment, and that is obviously because of how bad his tenure at Real Madrid went. But Real Madrid is a completely weird case. It does happen with a lot of managers, they go there, and you do need a certain type of personality, a certain type of aura at Real Madrid. So even though it is a mark against his name, I don't think it overshadows his tremendous success at Sevilla. He's managed to cement Sevilla as a top 4 side in Spain, and this season they are Real Madrid's closest challenger for the title. He's also took them to a Europa League win. And he does have a similar sort of system to Erik ten Hag. He does like to use a 4-3-3 with the wingers moving in field and having very advanced fullbacks, and this is where Sergio Reguilón really made his name, and he was excellent under Lopetegui. So I think Lopetegui's a really underrated shout for this managerial job, and I will also do more in-depth videos on each of these managers, how they would set up Manchester United in the future. But let's first go to my verdict on who I would want as Manchester United manager at this very point in time. In fourth, I'm going to go for Luis Enrique because despite his success with Barcelona and the promising look of his Spain side, I think he's been out of club management too long at this point, and it would be too much of a risk for Manchester United to take. In third place, I'm going to go with Lopetegui. I think he's definitely ready for a job of that calibre. I think after Sevilla, he'll definitely go to a top club, but I just think that Erik ten Hag and Pochettino are currently a level above him. For me, I'm going with Pochettino as my number one over Erik ten Hag, and the reason I do this is because I think ten Hag would be better suited to a complete rebuild, where he can rebuild the squad in his sort of image, and Manchester United aren't at that stage at this point in time. They need a manager who's going to come in and be able to give them as much success as they can in the next 2 or 3 seasons, and I do think Pochettino's ready for this. He's going to have gained a lot of experience from this PSG situation, and he's got the Premier League experience, his ability to develop players, and even though he has had trouble dealing with big personalities in Paris, I don't think it's comparable to pretty much any other side in Europe apart from maybe Barcelona and Real Madrid. I think he'll do completely fine at Manchester United with the players if he were to come in. So that was my brief summation of the 4 real candidates for the Manchester United job. I will do more in-depth videos in the future. So if you do want to see those, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and put your thoughts in the comment section below.